Hi, 8th grade. So we are sticking with our Elements of Art unit. Last week was line, this week is going to be shape. So as you can see, I have a bunch of different types of faceted gemstones, and I'm going to show you how to draw them in this lesson. We start with a basic geometric shape, and we add some value to it. Now in this way, I go over the difference between geometric and organic shapes. So our gemstones are going to be geometric, where our background I haven't done yet, but I'm going to show you that, and it's going to be more organic and free form. But we're going to stick with a little bit more line for the background to review last week's element of art. So I'm going to show you several different ways to approach these because I know that we all have different supplies at home. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pencil. If all you have is a pencil and a pen, then you're good to go. And I'll show you how to shade a gemstone just using pencil. Now, over here, I have my color pencil gemstones. So this one's more complicated. If you have a lot of different color pencils, and you can get like, from each color, you can get a dark, a medium, and a light. You can do this route. It's probably the most complicated one. I also have, if you don't have a ton of color pencils, just a couple, I'm going to show you how to shade them with just one color pencil. Now, over here, if all you have is crayons, I'm going to show you how to shade it with crayons, okay? So I'm going to give you multiple different options, and I'm going to show you multiple different shapes. Now, for your final, if you want to just to stick with one type of shape, that's fine. And if you want to stick with one color, that's fine too. But for my final, you can see that I did all different colors and all different shapes, but it's up to you. But what I'm looking for is that you're using geometric shapes for the gemstones and that you're going to create an organic background. So I'm going to start with a fresh sheet of paper. And to start our gemstones, we're going to start with a fairly, well, I'm going to start with a fairly simple one. So I'm going to start with a rectangle. And I'm just going to draw my rectangle out like that. So that's going to be the center of the gemstone. Then I'm going to put a border around it. It's almost like I'm making a little frame right now. If you want to be more precise with your geometric forms, you're more than welcome to use a ruler too. But I'm just freehanding it because I wasn't sure how many people would have rulers at home. All right, so after I've done that, I'm actually going to connect the points or the corners. So I'm going to draw a line like that, a line like that, line like that, and line like that. And that creates a very simple rectangular gem. Okay, so once you get to that part, I just like tracing my gems with thin marker just so it pops out. Again, if you don't have this, you can use a wider marker or a larger marker. Or honestly, if all you have access to is a ballpoint pen, you can use that too. All right, so after I trace this, I'm going to shift it around. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a color pencil to show you the first way to shade it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade light to dark, or I'm sorry, dark to light. So I'm going to start up at the top of the shape, and I am going to bring the color downwards, but I'm lightening up on the pressure so that you can see that it goes dark to light. So I'm going to do that. And for me, I actually go over it a couple times so it's a smoother transition. Okay, so there's the center. Now, I am going to put the lightest facet up here and the darkest down here. And I do this because darker is over here and lighter is over here. So I'm going to flip-flop it when I do the sides so you can see the difference. With faceted gems, the light just bounces all over the place. So when you're shading, you're trying to have different ways to shade. So I'm going to start dark to light, very similar to how we started. I'm going to do that. Okay, so the edge is darker as it goes towards the center, it's lighter, but you can see a difference in the side because this is dark and this is light. So then I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to go down here, and the inside is going to be dark, and now the edge is going to be light. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, and because that light bounces around, when I'm doing the sides, I'm actually going to go more of a vertical motion, like up to down. So I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to make the top corner the darkest, and I'm going to slowly shade it lighter. Now I'm going back and forth like this so that I'm going in a different direction than these, because it's going to make it look more like a gem and more like the light is bouncing around inside this gem. Okay, so I am going to, since I went dark to light this way, I'm going to go light to dark in the opposite way. So pretty simple for this type of gem. All right. All right, and there is my first gem. Pretty simple. Now, let's go to, let's say you don't have any color pencils, and all you have is a pencil. So let's start with a triangle for a different shape of a gem. I'm then going to repeat that same shape around, just a little bit wider. I'm going to connect the corners, and there's another gem. I'm going to trace it. Going to do the outline. Okay, so I forgot that line too. So there is my next gem. Now with the pencil, I'm going to start at the top again with a lot of pressure, and I'm slowly going to fade it down. Switch around. Now, what's really nice with shading with pencil is that you can make your shading smoother by gently rubbing it with your finger. Okay, so I actually want this side to be a little bit darker. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to select the lightest facet first and lightly color it in. That's actually a little darker than I wanted, so I'm going to smooth it out a little. Okay, then I'm going to find the opposite one, the opposite side, and that's actually going to be the darkest. So if you look, the light side went where the darkest part of the front was shaded, and since it's lighter, the darkest part, which is opposite from here, is going to be the darker facet. Okay, so light, dark. My next step is I am going to shade dark to light here. Notice this is still the darker area, so I want the lighter section touching that. So I have to do darker by the edge, and then I'm going to switch to the opposite side, and this is going to become the darker and go to lighter, just so there's a contrast with the front of that. Okay, and contrast, like, because I'm using that word a lot, means like you can see the difference. It's a clear difference. Okay, so then I go to the sides. So for this one, I'm going to shade, so I'm going to turn my paper sideways just like I did this side, and I'm going to shade this way down, changing the direction. And then because I did this side from dark to light, I am now going to go dark to light in the opposite direction. All right, and I just want my shading just to be a little bit smoother, so I'm just going to shade it and smudge it with my finger. Okay, so there is another gemstone. So I showed you the colored pencil. I showed you the pencil if you don't have any type of drawing materials to color with. Now, I can just flip it on the back to save paper. I'm going to show you a more complicated way to approach a gem with colored pencil. So I'm actually going to use 3 different colors. So when I was shading with the pencil and the one colored pencil, I had to create that value with the pressure of my pencil. Now I'm going to create the value with the different colors. So for this one, I am going to draw my shape. Then I go over it, leaving a border, connect the corners, and then, of course, trace and marker. Now, I'm selecting different shapes, but like if you want to try different shapes than me, you are more than welcome. Or if you find one shape that you like better, you can just repeat that over and over in your final project. So for this one, I'm going to start with blue. Well, I have 3 different types of blue. I'm going to start with the lightest blue. And I am going to lightly color it, the whole section, very lightly. Then I'm going to go with my second medium color and going to shade it, coming down, and I lighten up here so that it's darker here, lighter here. I feel like it's a little harder to see on camera. Let me just darken this up just a bit. Okay, all right, and then I take my darkest color. I'm gonna shade it in at the top, making sure the top appears much darker than the bottom. Okay, so once you have that shaded, I think I'm actually going to go back with the lighter color just to make this transition a little bit smoother. Okay, so I'm going to start again. I pick the lightest up top. Now this is harder because of the sides. It's a little uneven. So instead of going directly across, I'm actually going to go on the bottom because this is the lightest area. So I'm going to make the darkest point of the gem. So I am then going to color this dark. Okay, so there is the dark part of my gem. Okay, so I'm going to come up here, and since this is darker, I'm actually going to go, and you can see that it shades from dark to light, so I'm going to switch that so we can see that contrast, and this is going to start dark, but when I'm doing the shading, I actually always like to start with my lightest color. So I'm going to go like that. I'm then going to add the medium color. And then I'm going to add the darkest color. And then again, I don't like how choppy this area is, so I'm going to go with my lighter color and just blend it all in so it's a smoother transition. Okay, so now I'm going to do the opposite. So this is kind of the opposite side. So what I'm going to do is, since this is the lighter side and this is the darker, I'm going to start my darker shading up here. So first, shade with that lighter color. Then I'm going to take the medium color starting up here. Now I'm choosing, like the colors I'm choosing are the colors that I wanted, but if you want to switch up the colors because of the type of colors you have, that's totally fine too. So I'm going to shade this darker. All right, and then the same thing, I take the light, nope, that's not the lighter color. I'm gonna take the lighter color and smooth it. Okay, so now this is kind of tricky because like I have this other edge that doesn't have an opposite because the sides are uneven. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at this side and this is a lighter. So I'm going to shade dark to light coming out this way. So again, start with that lighter color. And then I'm going to move in with the medium color. Okay. And then with that last final dark color, and then I like to finish with shading it with a lighter color to smooth it. So I just want to go over the lighter part one more time so it sticks out, and the darker, and that is how you do it. A little bit more complicated than the other two ways. So if you don't have colored pencils but you want to do it this way, you can do the same thing with crayons. Take 3 different colored crayons to dark, medium, and light, and you can do the same thing with crayons. Okay, so those are different types of ways you can do the gems. Actually, when I was looking, trying to figure out this project, I just Googled faceted gems and I found a bunch of YouTube tutorials and other like sites where you can look at images. So at this time, you can start your final. And you can figure out how you want to lay it out. Remember, you can choose the same type of gemstone and just repeat it over. I'm not requiring a certain amount of gemstones, but like maybe at least 3 if you're looking for a number. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a larger marker. Now, we focus on our geometric shapes. Now, we're going to go, they're not necessarily like, well, we're going to do a combo of shapes and lines to review from last week. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to work with the negative space. So the positive space would be the gemstones. For the negative space, the background, the white area, I'm going to create designs in the background. And these are going to remain black and white designs so that they contrast the gemstones. So organic forms are more loose and free form. Geometric, you think of rulers, hard edge. With these lines, I'm looking for more loose and flowing lines, so I'm going to curve them around. And you can have some fun with your lines. I'm going to do curved wavy line. Okay. So as I'm working, I'm just moving my paper around. Okay. Almost done. Just finishing the last couple lines. If you're not comfortable jumping in right with the Sharpie, it's okay to draw your lines in pencil first, but I just wanted to jump in with the Sharpie marker. Okay, all right, so there's our project.